Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Mark Sherman for sending in some awesome pictures of his Imperial Guard Tallarn army. I love the colour scheme on this army. The brown with the green and the tan looks absolutely fantastic. The coordinated yet colour separated infantry squads looks really cool, distinctive yet the army still ties together. Overall, I just really like this army. So massive thanks for sending these pictures of Mark. Really appreciate it. Mark, I know you sent some other pictures of your Mordians and of your Castellans. Don't worry, I'll be using those pictures in other videos that I do. But massive thank you to Mark for sending these pictures. And if anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, then please post them on my Facebook page or you can email them to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com. And don't worry, if you're like me and you're an Ogren who's not had his bonehead surgery and you can't remember that, there are links and email addresses down in the description below. But without further ado, let's crack on with today's video. So today guys, I want to do another quick tip Tactica, and I'm going to be showing you how to put together an effective mortal wound battery that will allow you to put out between 40 and 50 mortal wounds over the course of the game with an average of 8 to 10 every single turn. It's a really effective little mortal wound battery, and the best bit is it doesn't even cost 150 points. It costs about 134 points. So it's really cheap, really effective, and it can be slotted into any Imperial Guard army. It can even be slotted into a Scion army. So if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, stick around because we're going to be taking a look at the Imperial Guard Mortal Wound Battery. So the first thing that you're going to need for this psychic battery is an inquisitor. It wouldn't be a sneaky, tricky tactic if there wasn't an inquisitor skulking around in the background. Now what you're going to need to do is create what I call a double smite inquisitor. Now I know that technically models can't do two smites, that's fine, but what this guy does is he does smite and then he does another power called castigation, which is basically like a pseudo smite. It's very similar to smite, it's just got some extra steps involved. Now to get this double smite inquisitor, you need to take a basic inquisitor, only costs 60 points, and you need to take him as Ordo Malleus, and you need to make him a psyker as well. Now all of that is free, which is great. You just say he's a psyker, which is fantastic. But what you're going to need to do is then spend a CP for Arbiter of the Emperor's Will, and that will allow you to give him an Inquisition Warlord trait. Now the one that you're after is the Malleus specific one, Psychic Mastery. This allows your psyker to cast 2 powers a turn. So already you can see that we're able to do 2 powers. That means you can do smite and another one, and I mentioned the other one, it's castigation. Now how castigation works is it has a warp charge value of 6. It's a witch fire power. If it's manifested, you select one enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to the psyker and roll 3d6. If the total exceeds the lowest leadership characteristic in that enemy unit, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Now that's really good because not only is it a source of mortal wounds, but it is what we call a targeted smite, a targeted witchfire, which means even if someone tries to screen out a unit, you can still be like, nah, 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 I'm going to hit you with some mortal wounds. So it's really, really effective. Now, whilst castigation might have a bit of a random element to it with that leadership test, what you've got to remember is the average on 3d6 is 10.5, so that's 10 to 11. That pretty much beats most leaderships of any unit in the game. There are 1 or 2 units which have got a slightly higher leadership than that, but by and large, unless you're unlucky, you should be beating the leadership of the enemy every single time, which is great. Also, don't forget it says the lowest leadership value. A lot of people make this mistake and they're like, okay, well, I've got to beat an 8 from a Space Marine squad. No, that's not true. Space Marines typically have a leadership of 7 and the Sergeant's got a leadership of 8, and you have to beat the lowest leadership value. So if you're targeting like Guardsmen, you don't have to beat a 7, you have to beat a 6 because the lowest leadership value is 6. So that's just a little quirk that you need to be aware of. A lot of people get that wrong with the power. It is the lowest leadership value. So that's the first part, and you could already see we've got one model there which has on average the ability to do 2d3 mortal wounds. You're looking at 4 mortal wounds a turn from this Inquisitor on average. So already we're doing great, but how else can we get more mortal wounds for really cheap in the Guard? Now the next piece of the puzzle is a Primaris Psyker. Now this guy's going to cost you 50 points. He knows 2 psychic powers but can normally only cast 1 a turn. But what you're going to do is combine this Primaris Psyker with a unit of Wyrdvane Psykers. Now, Wyrdvane Psykers are an elite choice, and they cost 24 points for 3 of them. And you can take them to a squad of like 9. You don't want to take them to a squad of 9. You just want to take them as cheap as possible. The Wyrdvanes are not actually going to be doing any powers. You don't care what powers they do. They're essentially going to be a source of psychic boosting for your Primaris Psyker. Now, why is that? How does that work? Well, there is a stratagem in the Psychic Awakening, the Greater Good, which the Guard can still use because we've not had our 9th edition Codex yet, called Psychic Choir. It costs 1 CP. What this does is if you've got a unit of Wyrdvane Psykers and a Primaris Psyker, they can create a choir of minds. And what that allows them to do is both units gain +2 to casting powers for the rest of the phase, and they can cast an additional power. Now, like we said, we don't care about the Wyrdvane Psykers. Honestly, their rules are utter trash, and without the stratagem, we'd never even consider taking them. But with the stratagem, what that means is that your Primaris Psyker now has +2 to cast. And what you're going to want to do is cast a smite with him, but you're also now able to cast an additional power, and he knows 2 powers, and that second power that you're going to want to do is going to be called Psychic Maelstrom. Now, Psychic Maelstrom is normally a 7 warp charge power, but thanks to our stratagem, we get +2 to cast it. So it's only a 5+, which is really good. Now, it's got an 18-inch range. It's a targeted power again, which is fantastic. It gets past screening. And how it works is if you successfully cast it, then on a 2+, you do 1 mortal wound. You then roll another dice, and on a 3+, you do another mortal wound. You then roll another dice. On a 4+, you do a 3rd mortal wound. You then roll another dice. On a 5+, you do a 4th mortal wound, and then you roll another dice, and on a 6 you get to do a 5th mortal wound. Now, odds are every time you get this power off, you should be doing at least 2 mortal wounds, and then it's kind of a coin flip whether you get to do that 3rd mortal wound. But bear in mind, this thing has potential to do 5 mortal wounds for 1 power. You just have to get a little lucky. But the average is 2 to 3 mortal wounds from the psychic power. So if we add it all up, we've got a smite from the Inquisitor going off on a 5+. We've got a castigation going off from the Inquisitor on a 6+. That is 2 sources of mortal wounds. On average, that's 2 mortal wounds per power, so that's 4 mortal wounds coming from the Inquisitor. We've then got our Primaris Psyker, who's also going to do a smite. Now, normally that smite would go off on a 6, but don't forget we've got +2 to cast, so that means it goes off on a 4. Important side note, you always want to cast with the Inquisitor first, and then with the Primaris Psyker when it comes to smite, because the Primaris Psyker is already going to be getting off on a 4 if it goes second, but the Inquisitor, if they go second, it's going to be trying to get smite off on a 6. It's a lot less reliable. So cast smite with the Inquisitor first, and then cast smite with the Primaris Psyker. Just a little side note there. So you're getting 2 mortal wounds from smite from the Inquisitor, 2 mortal wounds from castigation from the Inquisitor, 2 mortal wounds from smite from the Primaris Psyker, and then Psychic Maelstrom goes off, and you're looking at another 2 to 3 mortal wounds, which on average is 8 to 9 mortal wounds. And all of this has only cost you 134 points. That is incredible. And the best part is, the Inquisitor could be included in any Imperial Guard army. He doesn't have a regiment keyword. The Psykers, both the Primaris and the Wyrdvanes, don't have a regiment keyword. They are auxiliary, which means they can be included in any Imperial Guard army. You can literally plug and play this tactic into whatever Guard army you collect, be it Scions, Met Guard, Armoured Guard, Airborne Guard, anything you want, Infantry Guard, you can plug this in and it will work. It is totally regiment agnostic. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're doing an average of 8 mortal wounds a turn from this little psychic battery over the course of 5 turns, you're looking at 40 mortal wounds. Now, if you're able to get a little bit lucky here and then, maybe get a super smite here and there, maybe you get a good roll on your D3s, you could be looking at 50 mortal wounds. Now, you might not be in range every single turn of the game. Maybe turn 1, these are all 18-inch range powers. You don't quite have the range or the line of sight to pull it off. That's fine. Let's say you miss out on a turn. You're still looking from this at a minimum, I would say, of 30 mortal wounds every single game. Now, that's all we've got time for today, folks. If you've enjoyed today's video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. And if you've got any thoughts or feedback, put it down in the comment section below. Now, if you've really enjoyed today's video and you want to see more of these quick tip tacticas, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. It makes a huge difference and really helps support the channel. And I just want to take a moment to say a big thank you to our latest channel members and Patreon supporters. So a massive thank you to Tim Ailes, Overboard, Daniel Dirrig, Greatly Reduced Gameplay, Sweet and Sour Ass, Andrew Fudge, Samuel Gilbert, Justin Fuller Thompson, Michael Greb, Han, Discock33 and Gamley. Thank you guys for becoming channel members. Thank you for doing your part. I also want to say thank you to the latest Patreon support as well. So a big thumbs up 07 down in the comment section, guys, for Faceless Gaming Inc., Gunlock Zero, Sam Lord, Leo Wilson, Eric Cruzat and Antonio Aguilera. Thank you guys for your Patreon support. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Now, last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreon supporters, the War Masters. These are the people that have truly, utterly gone above and beyond the call of duty when it comes to supporting my channel, and I am genuinely, eternally grateful to them. So a massive thank you to Navy Veteran, Philip French, Ross Miller, Alex Dengal, John Stubbs, Nicholas Walsh, Swordfish Trombone, Diesel Fox, Tom Sutton and August Varney. Thank you guys. You know how much your support means to me, but I'll say it every single time, thank you so much. It truly is mind-blowing, life-changing and honestly kind of humbling. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.